The most challenging thing about reporting news since the digital medium has become such a big part of our work is the pace at which journalists need to work. Everything's much faster. There's a lot more competition from other journalists and other news outlets, and you no longer have the luxury of waiting overnight, say, to put out a print newspaper because things are exploding on Twitter, getting picked up, going on to things like live blogs, and it doesn't matter whether it's a Friday night at 11 p.m. and you had plans with your friends. It means that if it's your area of expertise and your beat, then you need to be available and ready to work on a subject at pretty much any hour of the day. I think it allows reporters to access a lot more stories and inside information from parts of the world that they wouldn't be otherwise able to reach. I think there was a thinking when digital media and social media became big that this was going to be, in a way, the great equalizer, because suddenly people from other parts of the world would have their stories heard. You'd be able to see people suffering directly and no longer just have to see it through print, through others' eyes, but through their own. I don't think that's necessarily happened, but certainly the ability to actually hear perspectives from places that you wouldn't otherwise hear, I think, is probably the best part. Look, I think with digital media, as a reporter, it means that you have to be across many kinds of media production. It used to be that you could just be a print reporter, and that's all that was expected of you. But these days in newsrooms, everybody's meant to have at least a little bit of something, right? It's helpful to also have a background in video, in audio, to be able to write long-form pieces and also to tweet things that are 180 characters, right? So I think it does put greater pressure on being able to deliver the same kind of information in different ways. First, approach everything critically. If something seems shocking or really surprising online, my first instinct is to say, pump the brakes, let's take a step back and think about where this is from. As with all sources, the same way, you want to think about the motivation of the person who's posted it. You want to follow the money trail as much as possible to see to take into account what the interests of the platform posting it might be. But I do think it's getting harder and harder. We're seeing advancements in AI where they can even manipulate videos of people to make people appear like they're saying something that they haven't. And that's just going to get better and better, and it's going to be harder to spot fakes. There are a few tools that journalists in newsrooms use, third-party platforms. There's one called Storyful that does a lot of the vetting of social media information that then newsrooms use to assess how likely it is that these accounts are real. But the important thing at the end of the day is if it hasn't been independently verified, which means that there was someone that you trust, an additional source was there on the ground, they also saw it, then to use language that makes really clear that the newsroom thinks, this is a social media that a user claims shows a bomb attack on a market, right? To always use wording that makes really clear that we don't know for sure, but we're going to tell you what we do know and what we don't know.